Hi guys, just want to do a quick informational video for new vapors or smokers that are looking into vaping. Just, you know, some general differences between the different types of e-cigs, etc. you can get, and I mean there's so many e-cigs out there nowadays. It can get a bit confusing. Also, I know a lot of people are using the bigger mods now, and you know, that chuck out big clouds of vapour, and this could be off-putting to somebody that didn't really understand vaping very well. You know, not all e-cigs do that. There's lots of different types out there. If that's not your thing, that's fine, you know, you don't have to do that. So I'm going to start, obviously, just to go through quickly the different types that you can get. Now, the smallest, don't mean so much, the smallest e-cigs you can get are the e-cigalites, which are the little ones like that look like cigarettes. That's the closest looking feeling in your hand that you're going to get to a cigarette. Unfortunately, they're not very well made most of the time. The battery life on them is really poor. Like, literally you're going to get an hour to 2 hours out of it, meaning if you're going out somewhere for the day or something, you're going to have a lot of spare batteries and have them charged, or, you know, carry them with you. So they're not very good. The batteries don't give off too much power, and the cartomizers, they're also can be quite expensive if you keep having to buy the refill tanks compared to buying a bottle of liquid. They're expensive, and they don't. To be honest, I think anybody that starts on them, one or two things happen. They will quickly go on to something bigger, or they will give up and go back to smoking, which is a shame because there's lots of things out there that are a lot better. So I have reviewed some. In fact, I actually, the first e-cig I myself ever tried was an e-cig-alike, but literally within days I had a ego set up. So yeah. So that's the first classification, is the tiny ones. The next one is this type of battery. This is quite a big ego battery just because it's a spinner, but you can get the ones that are like, you know, this small, and then you get the little tanks that can go on top of them. Then, I mean, these type of e-cigs, a lot of people started on. Nowadays, people are starting on bigger e-cigs, like straight out, but these e-cigs are also good, especially if you're just wanting a normal tank that's just going to give you the feel of a cigarette. So the draw's going to be tight, like this is a normal tank, above ohm tank. The air holes are small, the draw's tight, you're going to get the throat hit, and it's going to feel more like a cigarette. And they are mainly made for mouth to lung vaping, which is what I just did, like a cigarette. So yeah, I mean, if you're not wanting massive plumes of vapour, you're just wanting to quit smoking, you don't want a massive big mod, these are not bad. A lot of people, I mean, this was what I went to within, like I said, within a week of vaping, or even less than that. I had one of these and I never looked back. They are good for beginners, definitely. Or, you know, my mum and aunt still use these type of tanks. They don't use sub-ohm tanks at all, and they've been vaping for years successfully. Now, if you are going to use above ohm tanks like these, the other thing obviously is e-liquid. Unfortunately, with the TPD coming in on the 20th, the highest e-liquid most places will be stocking will be 18 mg. So 18 mg was fine for me. I never went any higher. That's what I started on. But for some people, you know, they need a 24 or even higher. So that's the only drawback with using this type of tank over a sub-ohm tank. Yeah, because you're going to need a higher e-liquid because they're not as efficient as delivering it into your lungs. Now, the other thing with the above ohm tanks, I mean, you don't have to have an ego style battery. You could buy something like this, which is a box mod, but it is a very small box mod compared to the normal size box mod that most people use with the big tanks. It does go very well with this. I'll pop it on for you in a second. But the benefit of having something like this is if after a few weeks you decide you want to go on to try a sub-ohm tank, you don't need to buy a new battery. If you go out and buy a kit straight away with a small box mod, you won't need to go and buy it. I mean, if you would go out and buy one of these will not fire sub-ohm tanks. They will only fire normal tanks. Whereas this will fire both and goes up to 80 watts. So it's a starter kit, but you can grow with it. You're not going to need to go and buy something else straight away if you decide you want to try something more. So I'm just going to shove. I mean, this is a spinner, so you can change the voltage, which means you can put more. You can decide to put more power through the battery if you want to. This, on the other hand, is variable wattage and does have temp control as well, which is some more advanced form of vaping. Although anybody can do it, you just basically check you've got control not over just the power, but the heat that's going through your coil. That's all temperature control is. So same tank, 15 watts. So it still feels tight. You still got this restricted airflow. Still feels like the draw of a cigarette, but you're going to get more throat hit out of it. You're going to get slightly more vapour out of it. I mean, this is not a massive amount of vapour, not compared to sub-ohm vaping, but it's you know, it's significant amount of vapour that's, you know, satisfying. The vape is more satisfying. So that's a normal above ohm tank on a small box mod and on a Ego style battery. Now the next step is obviously sub-ohm vaping. This tank did come with 2 sub-ohm coils, so you could again, if you bought this kit, there's room to grow because you've got the normal coils in there that's going to be really tight, and then you've got a temp coil and a normal canful sub-ohm coil. So you've got all 3 to try, which is good for a starter. I think this is a good starter kit. But I'm going to show you something else. This is another small mod. It has got a sub-ohm, comes with a sub-ohm tank, although you can get normal coils for this as well actually. Slightly more airflow, well, you've got more control over the airflow. So this again is just a small box mod, a bit more girly. I'll show you the difference. It's not much bigger than the little black one I have. Slightly bigger, but not much. Again, this is a sub-ohm coil that I have in here. It is a 0.6. But they Kanga do 1. I don't know if they're 1.5 coils for this as well. So you can buy normal coils for it. Now the good thing about having a sub-ohm coil is you can turn your wattage up, which is going to give you more vapour. And as I've said before, the e-liquid's different. You could get a start on a 6 mg e-liquid in this tank and get as much nicotine intake as an 18 mg liquid in this tank. So it's something else to think about. If you're needing more of a nicotine hit, unfortunately the only way to get it now would be to get a sub-ohm tank, because you're not going to need as high nicotine level to get the same amount of hit off it. When I first got a sub-ohm tank, I went from an 18 straight to a 3. So, you know, there's significant difference. Now, this is still not going to pile out loads and loads of vapour that's going to be, you know, but you're going to get, obviously, a more vapour off it. I mean, that's with the airflow wide open, and that was a direct lung inhale. Now, you can turn the airflow right down and do a mouth to lung inhale off this tank too. So yeah, you can still do both with this, which is, you know, good. And again, it's another good starter mod because you can get both normal and sub-ohm coils, and you've got a good variation in your airflow, which is, your airflow is very important for making how tight the drag's going to be. And for new vapors, you're going to want more, you have to get used to having a lot of airflow. If you went to a big tank with massive airflow, it's going to feel very alien compared to a cigarette. And that is with the airflow is tiny on, so that's a very, very tight draw, even tighter than the other tank actually, to be fair. Yet I've got a much lower e-liquid in here, and it's still satisfying. So that's one more thing to think about. For me, as a step up from this, would be the normal Aspire Cleito. Like I said, turn this on. It fits on the smaller box mod. It's obviously going to be bigger than the one that came with it, which is that one that I had on. But it's still quite dinky compared to, you know, something like that. So this type of you really need to have this over 30 watts to be decent. This again, obviously there's going to be the bigger the tank you go, the more airflow you're going to get, but you can always cap the airflow off to what you want it. I mean, that was with the airflow practically, if you'll be able to see, yeah, on both sides, exactly the same. So that's with the airflow practically closed. So that's still, it is quite a tight hit. Not obviously as tight as the beginner tanks that I showed you earlier, but it's still quite tight. And the vapour production off it is very, you get quite a bit. So if you are one of these that you enjoy as you start vaping, maybe not at first, you may think, oh well, I'm not really bothered about vapour, but as you get vaping and you get used to it, it becomes a bit addictive, or at least it did for me, and you do want more vapour. So, you know, going up in size, that would be my next stopgap of this. But you could even start on one of these. It would not be bad as a starter sub-ohm tank, and I know lots of people do that nowadays. Some people just skip, you know, the rest of it and just go straight into sub-ohm vaping. This would not be a bad place to start. And after that, then you really are going on to your bigger tanks, like the one I've just shown you that I'm using. This is it's exactly the same tank as this, but the bigger brother. And then after that, you've got your super tanks, which is, I wouldn't really advise anybody starting on a super tank, although people have done it. This, unfortunately, I can't show you this because I've had to order new glass for it. But this is the TF-V8, which is a small super tank. People have started on these, and the little brother to this, the TF-V8 Baby and Big Baby, you could start on one of those. They're not, yeah, they're not what's it, but you would really need to start on a low nicotine level, because obviously the bigger the tank, this is my TF-V12, which is one of the biggest that I have. This is a beast, and literally even a 3 mg liquid in this is too much. And I've been vaping for years. I'm literally using naught with just a sprinkle of 3 mg in there. This, I would not advise starting on one of these. Really, you'd want to work your way up to it. You couldn't use anything like this on a small battery either, like this battery. Although it would fire them. It does fire them. I have put this on there. But it just hasn't got the power, even at 80 watts on this, because it's only a 1 battery mod. It just hasn't really got the power to give it any kick at all. I mean, this is a normal size mod that you could put any of these tanks on, and this actually isn't very big, not compared to most. and very easy to use. I mean, these sort of mods, they're all 2 batteries, and then you can get 3 batteries as well, but we won't go into that today. But yeah, that's it really. There is so much, and I know it's very, very confusing, but it all depends on the type of person you are, what you want out of vaping. If you really just want to quit smoking, and you want something that's going to be tight, you don't particularly want lots of vapour, you just want a nice, you know, nice tight drag with a good throat hit, then yeah, going for a little tank, a foam tank with, you know, not much airflow, that could be the way for you. Even if you wanted to use one of these, which are not very expensive, worth getting just to see if you enjoy vaping maybe before you get one of these. But if you buy one of these and you want to try a bigger tank, you haven't got to go and buy something new. So yeah, I mean, that is really the differences between the main categories of vaping, as simply as I can put it. I'm sorry if I'm just like, you know, rambling on and you're not understanding anything I'm saying. The other thing I would suggest as well, if you're a smoker, go into your local vape shop. Most of the vape shops I've ever been in, they're nice people. They know what they're doing most of the time. No, they do. They've got different e-liquids that you can try, because finding the right taste is also important. You know, the taste that you really enjoy and you want to be using all day long. Or you can try lots of different flavours, you know, different tanks. They'll go over the different options with you, because obviously they know what tank goes with what. Best way to go, really, nowadays especially, because they're everywhere. YouTube, obviously, is also a very good source of information. I would watch review. If you pick a tank out that you think you like, watch a review. It takes 2 minutes and you'll get some idea of how it's going to work. I will put in the description, you know, what these the ecigs that I've shown you, that what they are. This one in particular, because it is really meant for a starter kit. So yeah, I think that's about it really. The only other thing that I should really mention, I'm not going to go into great detail because it'll confuse you even more, but if you are looking at mods, or if whatever batteries, ego batteries, whatever, if you're not used to vaping, or even if you're a beginner, there's a type of e-cig out there, they're called mechanical mods. Basically, they have no chipsets in them, they have no, you know, they have nothing, no protection, you're just running off pure battery power alone, and they can be very dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing, you put the wrong batteries in, you put the wrong you put the wrong tank on the top, they can be dangerous. I mean, there's been instances, as I suppose many people have seen, stories about people that's been burnt because their e-cig, you know, has malfunctioned. Well, most the people in them have been using mechanical mods. So just to throw that out there, because if you're looking at them at e-cigs, you're going to see them, because they're on, you know, websites. They've all got mechanical and normal APV, which are the one, you know, the regulated mods, which is what you want to be buying as a new vapor. But I think that is pretty much covered at least the basic stuff on vaping. Yeah, if you're a smoker and you're watching this video, then try it. It will change your life. I mean, I'm not just, you know, I'm not a hypocritical. Just because I don't smoke anymore doesn't mean I think I should go around telling everyone else, you know, it's bad for you, blah, blah, blah. Everybody knows that stuff. When I was a smoker, I knew that stuff. You know, you don't need telling that. But these are worth trying. They are worth trying. Okay? Thank you for watching.